Welcome back to the Made to Be Men podcast. My name is Chris, I'm your host. And just to share some of the goals of this channel before we get into today's video, what I really want to do with this podcast is share some of the things that I've learned and experienced in my walk with God in order to encourage particularly other men to grow in their walk with God and become who God has called them to be. So if you find anything I share valuable or useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll share more about what I've learned and experienced in becoming who God has called me to be. So with that said, today I wanted to share some things I've learned about spending time with God. I know God is always with us and we can talk to him at any time, but there's something particularly special about setting aside time so it's just you and him. No distractions. Just that specific time you carve out, which is you and God. You're going to talk now. No other distractions, no phone, no TV, no music. You're just going to spend time with God. You're focused on him. And if we want to be godly men, we should prioritize time with God. That is the foundation. And so I'm just going to share 3 things that I've learned about time with God. The first thing that I've learned is that what you do first lays the foundation for your day. If you go into your day, if you begin your day without having spent any time with God, without having spoken to him or committed the day to him, you're essentially saying, God, I can handle this day without you. I'm going to do this day in my own strength. That's effectively what you're doing with your actions. That's not to put anyone down if you've done that before. I've done that before. I'm sure we've all done it at some point. But to just call it what it is, what you put first shows what you prioritize. And so if you put God first, if you start with God, begin your day talking with him, you're prioritizing him. You're choosing to make him the foundation of your day. And honestly, there's been days where I didn't spend time with God at the start. I just went straight into the day, maybe because I was busy or I was in a rush and I just wanted to get things done. But those days compared to the days where I set aside time at the beginning of the day to just talk with God, it's night and day difference, the results I get. You are supernaturally enabled to complete what you need to complete during the day when you've started the day with God, and you just experience a joy, a peace, a fulfillment throughout the day when you've started it with the source of those things, which is God. John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So God was in the beginning. The Word was in the beginning. So the Word should always be in the beginning. It should always come first. God should always come first. So we should start our day following that same pattern. We begin it with the Word. And I mean both the written word and the living word. We spend time with Jesus and we spend time reading his word. Our day should begin with, God, what are you saying to me today? What do you want me to learn today? What's the word for me to stand on for this day? Then we commit the day to God. Proverbs 16 and verse 3 says, commit your work to the Lord and your thoughts will be established. So when you commit something to God, your thoughts, God will give you the very thoughts and wisdom you need to accomplish that thing. Your thoughts are established. And so if you commit your day to God, he will give you the wisdom you need to succeed that day. What you do first lays the foundation for your day. So the next thing that I've learned, and it's connected to the last one, it is that whatever you give to God, he multiplies, including your time. If you give God time, you will have more time. What we have a tendency to do is, the busier we are, the more things we have going on, and the more things we need to do, the less time we spend with God. because we think we need that time to do those other things. But the truth is actually the opposite. The more busy you are and the more things you need to get done, the more time you should spend with God. And it's because it's in that time with God that you receive wisdom and supernatural grace in order to complete the things you need to complete during the day. When you give God time, He will enable you to use the rest of the time you have more efficiently. Things which would normally take you 1 hour to do, you'll be able to do in 10 minutes. Something which you've spent hours trying to figure out, you'll suddenly have the solution just drop into your mind and you don't even realize how. Suddenly now you've got more time. That's what happens when you spend time with God. You give Him that time, you get more time. There's an old quote from Martin Luther where he said, "I have so much to do today that I think I'll spend the first 3 hours in prayer." And the point he's making is that I have all of these things which I need God's wisdom to do. So I'm going to prioritize time with God first to receive from Him, which will enable me to do those things. When you give God time, you will get more time. The last thing I want to share that I've learned is that what you give your time and attention to is what you worship. Everyone worships something, whether you call it that or not. The thing that gets the most of your time and attention is what you are worshipping. Most people probably wouldn't call it worshipping, but if you give most of your time and attention to entertainment or working or watching shows, those things are what you are worshipping. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to worship those things or do we want to worship God? The other truth about it is, what you worship is what you become like. If we want to become godly men, then we should give our time and attention to God. Because as we do that, we're worshipping Him. And in worshipping Him, we're becoming like Him. 2 Corinthians 3 verse 18 says, "And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." So just to wrap this up, I've made spending time with God a priority, because it's in doing that that I've received the wisdom and supernatural grace to be who God has made me to be. What you do first lays the foundation for your day. Whatever you give to God, He multiplies. And what you give your time and attention to is what you worship.